Lily's shoes slapped against the wet pavement as she chased after Milo, her tiny golden brown puppy who had somehow wriggled out of her arms the second they stepped out of the grocery store. The sky had opened up only moments earlier, releasing a steady sheet of rain that turned the parking lot into a shimmering mirror of streetlights and blurred colors. Lily's hair clung to her cheeks, her breath sharp and shaky as she called Milo's name again and again, but the little creature seemed possessed by excitement. He bounded forward with those clumsy legs, ears flopping, tail wagging like the world had become his personal playground. "Milo! Stop! No, not that way!" Lily's voice cracked, half from fear, half from the cold air biting into her lungs. The puppy didn't even glance back. Instead, he made a sharp turn and sprinted toward a line of cars where a sleek, black vehicle idled quietly, its windows tinted dark enough to hide whatever, or whoever, might be inside. Lily's stomach flipped. That wasn't the kind of car that belonged in a small, quiet neighborhood. It was too polished, too intimidating, too silent. Trucks passed through here. Old family cars. Rusty motorcycles. Not that. But Milo didn't care. He leapt, tiny paws landing on the car's step before he scrambled into the open back seat like he'd found treasure. Lily stumbled to a stop, heart pounding in panic. Rain dripped down her eyelashes as she stared in disbelief. Her puppy, her entire world, had just thrown himself into someone's car. She reached the door just as it opened. A tall figure stepped out, his presence so commanding the air itself seemed to pause. Lily's breath caught, frozen in her throat. The man wasn't just intimidating, he was unmistakable. Dante Moretti. The name alone could silence a room. The whispered stories of the underground king. The man people avoided making eye contact with, whose power stretched across the city like an unseen net. He wore a dark coat that matched the shadows, tailored perfectly to his broad shoulders, and his expression was unreadable as he glanced down at the small creature now pawing happily at his expensive suit. Lily felt her voice break as she tried to speak. I'm so sorry, sir, he didn't mean to, he just... Dante raised a hand gently, stopping her panic in its tracks in a way she wasn't prepared for. His eyes, cold gray, sharp and calculating, softened almost imperceptibly as he looked at Milo, who whined and nudged his hand like they were best friends already. "He chose my car," Dante said, his tone low yet oddly calm. "Interesting." Lily blinked, confused by the hint of amusement in his voice. This was a man feared by criminals, respected by businessmen, whispered about by families. Yet here he was, letting her puppy claw at his suit as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She reached out to lift Milo, but the puppy squirmed away instantly, pressing himself against Dante's leg like he had found safety there. His little tail wagged rapidly, as if he was choosing this stranger over the girl who raised him. Dante let out a quiet chuckle, a sound Lily never imagined he was capable of. It wasn't menacing or sarcastic. It was warm, real, almost gentle. "Looks like he doesn't want to leave," he said softly. Lily swallowed, feeling heat rise to her cheeks despite the cold rain. I don't know why he's acting like this. He's never." "It's fine," Dante interrupted, his gaze lingering on her as if assessing something far deeper than the situation. And in that moment, she felt it, the shift. The strange pull of fate that no one could see until it had already tightened around them. She didn't know it yet, but Milo's stubborn attachment to the Mafia boss had just woven her life into Dante Moretti's world, and nothing would ever be the same again. The drive began in a thick silence, the kind that presses against the windows and hums beneath every breath. Lily sat stiffly in the passenger seat, Milo curled blissfully in Dante's lap as if he'd been adopted into luxury. Dante's fingers absent-mindedly stroked the puppy's soft fur while his other hand remained steady on the wheel. Lily watched the way the city lights slid across his sharp profile, highlighting the confidence etched into every line of his face. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like someone carved out of stone, controlled, unreadable, unshakably sure of himself. Lily clutched her grocery bag tightly, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. She had no idea what to say to him, no idea how to breathe normally in the same space as a man who commanded entire territories with a single gesture. But his calm presence made it impossible to panic completely, even if her heart still pounded hard enough to echo in her ears. Dante was the first to break the silence. "He's a brave one," he said, glancing down at Milo. "Jumping into a stranger's car without hesitation. Lily managed a small laugh. Brave or reckless? I haven't decided yet. Dante's gaze flicked to her, and for a moment her breath caught. Under the dim interior lights, his eyes didn't look cold at all. They looked, observing, attentive, as if he was studying her reactions like a puzzle he wanted to solve. You handled yourself well, he said quietly. Most people would have been terrified the moment they saw me. She didn't know what surprised her more, that he acknowledged it, or that he said it without arrogance. I was terrified, she admitted, her voice low. Still am. But Milo wasn't thinking about danger. He just liked you. A faint smile tugged at Dante's lips. Dogs are better judges of character than humans. They see what we try to hide. Lily wondered what he meant by that, but his tone didn't invite questions. Instead, she found herself watching him again, noticing the tiny signs of a man who lived behind walls. Rigid posture, disciplined movements, and a gaze that always scanned the road for threats even while he looked relaxed. When they pulled into her neighborhood, Lily felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. The car slowed in front of her apartment building, a modest place with flickering hall lights and peeling paint. Compared to Dante's sleek car and commanding presence, her world felt small, fragile. Dante parked and stepped out first, Milo still clinging to him like he belonged there. Lily hurried around to retrieve her puppy, but Milo whined loudly the moment she reached for him, burying his face into Dante's chest. Lily's cheeks warmed in embarrassment. Milo, please, come here. But the puppy refused completely, and Dante chuckled, the sound quiet and strangely soft. He's made his choice, he murmured, lifting Milo so the puppy could rest his paws on his shoulder. You can't keep him, Lily blurted before she could stop herself. Dante raised an eyebrow. I didn't say I would. She looked down, flustered. Sorry. He's all I have. His expression changed then, subtle but unmistakable, something like understanding, or maybe recognition. I won't take him from you, he said. But you're welcome to let him visit. Lily blinked, unsure if she heard correctly. Was the city's most feared man asking for puppy visitation? Before she could speak, Dante gently took her hand and placed a simple black card in her palm. His fingers brushed hers, warm and steady. If you ever need anything, he said, voice low enough to stir the air between them, call me. Lily stared at the card, then at the man in front of her. She wanted to ask why. Why he cared. Why he was being kind. Why he looked at her like he wasn't supposed to. But she couldn't form a single word. Dante set Milo in her arms, lingering long enough for his fingers to graze her wrist. Good night, Lily. As he walked back to his car, Milo whined softly, eyes following him with longing. Lily held her puppy close, heart racing for reasons she couldn't understand, reasons she tried not to admit. She told herself she'd never use his card. Never call him. Never let herself get close to someone like him. But destiny had already begun weaving something between them, delicate yet unbreakable. And neither of them had any idea how quickly the thread would tighten. The nights had been peaceful for 3 days, too peaceful, almost. Lily tried to return to her quiet routine, convincing herself that Dante's sudden appearance in her life was a fleeting moment she shouldn't think about. But she did think about it. Every time Milo sat by the door and whimpered, every time her fingers brushed over the black card he'd given her, every time she remembered the warmth in his voice when he said her name. Still, she kept her distance. Men like Dante Moretti didn't belong in the world of girls like her. So she tucked the card away in a drawer and told herself she would never need to use it. But the universe had other plans. It started with a sharp, unexpected knock on her door, loud enough to rattle the frame. Milo's ears perked up, then he began barking loudly as the knocks grew harder, more aggressive. Lily's heart slammed into her ribs as she crept toward the peephole, but before she could look, a man's voice shouted from the hallway. Open the door. We know you're in there. Lily froze. She recognized that voice. It belonged to one of the men who had been after her brother before he died. Her brother had owed them money, a debt Lily never knew about until they came looking for her, convinced she had something he left behind. Her hands began to shake. Go away. I don't know anything about his debts. I have nothing to give you. The men laughed, a cold, cruel sound. That's not our problem. Open the door, girl. We're coming in one way or another. Before she could react, a violent crash shook the entire apartment as one of them kicked the door. Lily screamed, grabbing Milo and backing toward the kitchen, her breath trembling. Her mind raced through every possible escape route. The fire escape. The window. She couldn't think clearly. Another kick. The lock splintered. The door burst open. Milo barked frantically as the men flooded into her apartment, 3 of them, eyes wild, faces twisted with anger and greed. "Where is it?" one snarled, grabbing Lily by the arm. "Let me go," she cried, but her voice cracked, trembling with pure terror. The man raised his hand as if to strike her. And then a voice thundered through the doorway. A voice that turned the air to ice. "Touch her and you won't leave this building alive." Everything stopped. Silence swallowed the room. Dante stood in the doorway, framed by the dim hallway lights like the shadow of judgment itself. His expression wasn't calm like before. It was lethal. His jaw was tense, his eyes burning with a quiet fury that made the intruders step back without thinking. 2 of his men flanked him, each one as cold and intimidating as their leader. The man holding Lily let her go instantly, stumbling backward. We didn't know she was. She's not anything of yours," Dante said, voice low and controlled. "You broke into her home. You threatened her." His gaze flicked to Milo, who whined in fear. "And you terrified my dog." The way he said "my dog" sent a strange shock through Lily's chest. The intruders scrambled for the exit, but Dante's men blocked them effortlessly. Dante stepped forward, eyes locked on the man who had grabbed her. "You will never come near her again," Dante said, every syllable sharp as steel. "If you do, I'll deal with you myself." The men didn't argue. They ran. When they were gone, Lily felt her knees give out. The fear, the adrenaline, the shock, it all collapsed at once. Dante reached her in seconds. "Lily," he murmured, and suddenly his voice wasn't the voice of the Mafia boss. It was the voice of the man who softened under Milo's paws. He wrapped his arms around her as she trembled, pulling her against his chest with a gentleness that broke her last bit of restraint. "I told you," he whispered, one hand cupping the back of her head, "if you needed anything, you call me." Tears spilled from her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know what to do." "You don't have to," he said, holding her tighter. "Not alone." Milo nuzzled between them, whimpering softly, and Dante lowered his head, his cheek brushing Lily's hair as if making a promise he didn't dare say aloud yet. In that moment, Lily realized something deep, something terrifying and comforting all at once. He hadn't saved her out of obligation. He had come because he couldn't stay away. The days that followed took on a rhythm Lily hadn't expected, one that wrapped itself around her life so naturally it frightened her. Dante began checking on her almost every evening. Sometimes he arrived with groceries she insisted she didn't need. Sometimes with a new toy for Milo, who practically launched himself at Dante every time he appeared. And sometimes, Dante arrived with nothing at all, just himself, stepping into her small apartment with that quiet presence that filled every corner. Lily told herself she should be careful. Men like Dante didn't step into anyone's life without reason. Yet every time she saw him crouched on her living room floor, letting Milo climb onto his lap, or every time she caught him watching her with a softness he tried to hide, she felt her resolve melt. One evening, Dante showed up because Milo had escaped again. Lily hadn't even realized the door hadn't shut properly until she heard rapid footsteps in the hallway, followed by Milo's joyful bark. When she opened the door, she found Dante walking toward her with the puppy tucked under one arm, like he'd just retrieved something precious. "He keeps running to me," Dante said, his voice lighter than she'd ever heard it. "I think he's trying to make a point." Lily crossed her arms, trying to hide the warmth rising in her chest. "Maybe he just likes the smell of leather seats and expensive cologne." Dante stepped closer, and with every inch he closed, her heart beat harder. "Maybe," he murmured, tilting his head slightly, "or maybe he's guiding me somewhere I didn't know I needed to be." Lily swallowed, suddenly unable to speak. Milo wiggled in his arms and Dante gently placed him on the floor. The puppy pranced away, leaving the 2 of them standing close enough that Lily could feel Dante's warmth, could see the way his eyes softened when they rested on her. "Lily," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant, a word she never imagined applied to him. "You've been on my mind more than I'd like to admit." She blinked, her breath catching. "Why?" Dante gave a quiet laugh, not mocking, just honest. "I don't get asked why very often. People don't question me." "I'm not people," she whispered. No, he said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, fingertips grazing her skin. You're not. The touch sent a shiver through her, but not of fear. Dante's hand lingered near her cheek, like he was waiting for permission to close the small space between them. Lily didn't move away. She couldn't. Something had been pulling them toward this moment since the day Milo jumped into his car. Still, Dante hesitated. You've had enough danger in your life. I don't want to add more. She looked up at him, meeting the storm he always carried in his eyes. You saved me. Twice. That doesn't mean I'm safe, he murmured. Maybe, she said softly, but I feel safe with you. That broke whatever restraint he had left. Dante stepped fully into her space, one hand sliding to the small of her back, the other gently lifting her chin. His forehead rested against hers for a breath, like he was giving her a chance to step away. She didn't. Milo barked once, almost impatiently, and Dante let out a soft breath that might have been a laugh. Then he kissed her. It wasn't rushed or demanding. It was careful, reverent, like he'd been holding back for far too long. Lily melted into him, fingers curling into his shirt, feeling the tension leave his body as he pulled her closer, fitting her against him like she belonged there. When they finally pulled apart, Dante kept his arms around her, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't want Milo to let go of me, he said, brushing his thumb over her cheek. And I don't want you to let go either. Lily rested her head against his chest, hearing the strong, steady beat of the heart so many feared. Then stay, she whispered. He held her tighter, pressing a kiss to her hair. I'm not going anywhere. Milo circled them, tail wagging as if he knew exactly what he'd started. The puppy had leapt into the wrong car that day. But somehow, he'd led both of them exactly where they were meant to be.